Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derek Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derek Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm Derek Dombeck, your host, and as you've been following us for a while, you know we're all about living our vision, loving our life. And today, I've got Ann Sieg with me, and I got to tell you, Ann comes from a completely different background than anything that I've been experienced with or anybody that I've talked to on this show. Also, she's a fellow Midwesterner originally, so gotta respect that. Ann, if you wouldn't mind, say hello to everybody, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just dive right into it.
Alrighty, awesome. Hey, greetings, welcome. I shouldn't say welcome, you already did that, but anyways, excited to be here. I love generational wealth concepts, building, etc. That's my whole story. I built my business with my 3 sons and my husband. Curiously, my husband and I have had businesses most of our 40-year marriage. And I really encouraged our sons. I homeschooled for 12 years with our 3 sons. And the eldest got inspired to recruit his brother, so to speak, who was 4 years younger. Hey, Mom, we're going to start an eBay business. Okay. I had nothing to do with that. I did not fund it. It was all on them. They placed the orders. They did the whole thing, except we need a 5-star rating. So you got to get Rob to the post office the very same day. That's all I knew. That's the only part I had. So that was, I think my eldest was in 11th grade and the middle son was in 7th grade, I believe. And off they went. So we really encourage entrepreneurship in the family because that's the cloth we're cut from. My husband and I, in fact, our first foray was a grow chart, Dino Kid grow chart that we sold to the Science Museum of Minnesota. And we tried to sell that all over the country. And this is before the internet, by the way. But through that, we've done, I will say most prominently is the online. So I've been online for 20 years and I love being in the online space. I do love face-to-face interaction as well to have a better balance, but it just has been an incredible, amazing experience. So my first 10 years, I was teaching lead gen and funnel building through a program that we had. And that was primarily to a specific niche called network marketers. So that was my niche. But we made a pivot into e-commerce 10 years ago. And so we have a training and mentorship platform for e-commerce selling. Obviously that's online. So it's been a lot of fun. Love working with people. Love building teams of people and helping people. What I really love and am passionate about is strengthening the family economy.
Well, I got so many questions because I'm brand new to your space. Obviously, I know about e-commerce, but it's not my forte. My wife, Tracy, did for many, many years, run her own eBay store and dabbled with that, but it was something she did. And that was probably my first question for you is when eBay was really popular, when you kind of put all of your eggs in that one basket and you're going to have an eBay store, and then they change their regulations or their rules, do you really have any control over your business? So how do you protect yourself from something like that?
Well, that speaks to multi-channel. Which, you go, really, do I have to? It's just like with advertising. YouTube has been our main wheelhouse, bread and butter for paid advertising, that is, but it's like a one-legged stool. And anytime you're in business, you better just really adapt to the fact that you're going to have to be multi-channel, whether that's multiple e-commerce platforms or advertising channels or whatever it may be. It's just a fact of life. So we had a windshield replacement business in Minnesota for 12 years, actually. Did many, many windshields. He had about 12 different dealerships in the Twin City Metro. And what really broke us at the end of the day, it came to the advertising practices. So state of Minnesota rolled out a new law, wiped out all the little moms and pops. There's kind of a whole story behind that. But it's, in life and in business, it's all about the hard-learned lessons. And so to your point about the regulations, only really, it's what you just have to do and embrace is you're going to have to diversify. And yeah, it means having to learn yet another platform, So whether that be in advertising and e-commerce, so I would recommend, because we've had so many people who were in e-commerce who then came into Amazon to learn that. And then we mostly been promoting Amazon, but you better have a backup to that too. It's always about backup, backup, backup. That's just the nature of the beast. And I think it's become all the more needful when you're in the online space. Things pivot and change so quickly. It's breathtaking. So you just have to be adept. You have to be nimble. You just have to embrace the fact that things are not going to stay the same. As soon as you're sitting in your easy boat, you're like this, that's when you better be ramping up for the next. You just better be doing it because something's going to come.
Yeah, for sure. And that's across every business. I mean, of course, e-commerce, but real estate's the same way. What we deal with every day. So how do you get started if somebody's listening to this and they're like, hey, you know what? I really like what Ann's talking about. What's the beginning? Do you have to have a product? Do you have to build a team? Start us, I guess, at infancy and take us through.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm going to tell you, it can be very confusing if you start to tippy-toe over into that space and you start to do keyword searches. You're going to start getting inundated via keyword search for all these different sourcing methods, and you're going to get confused very, very quickly. And so it really helps for someone to step back and give you a global view of the industry in e-commerce. And I'm going to address Amazon more so, because that's kind of been the big 10-ton gorilla in the room driving the whole, they're over like 51% of all online e-commerce sales. You're going to see the whole wide swath of source from China. Hey, shouldn't I be doing Alibaba? And should you be doing wholesaling? Should you be doing drop shipping, which is against Amazon's terms of service, by the way? Should you be doing wholesaling? You're going to hear all these things. You're going to hear about Shopify. And before you know it, it's this whole big slurry mess. And the way I try to help clean out the big slurry mess is I liken it to a swimming pool. And so when you have a little toddler, you don't take them over to the deep end and have them climb up the ladder and do a deep dive in. And that would be, for example, Shopify is the most challenging because you have to be very, very good at running ads. You need to know your return on ad spend, all these metrics and numbers, let alone selecting the right product. So we want to start in the shallow end of the pool. But again, you won't have that context unless someone can kind of paint the picture for you, because we have taught almost all the methods I just told you about. So we start people with what's called retail arbitrage, and all arbitrage means buy low, sell high, kind of like flipping houses, Now, there is a massive, huge advantage of starting with retail arbitrage, and it's this: you're only going to sell products that are already selling. Anything above and beyond that, the risk factor starts to go up, which means, and as someone new to any kind of industry, you want to get in the most risk-free bucket as possible to mitigate risk and a greater likelihood of success, okay? But you don't know that unless someone kind of paints the visual for you. So we start all our members with retail arbitrage. And typically for the last 10 years, that's how long we've been doing it, over 10,000 students, we start with retail arbitrage with Amazon. Just this past year, and I do mean this year, 2024, we've integrated eBay into it, only in that eBay truly is faster, it's cheaper, you don't have to pay a $39.95 monthly, etc. But the difference between eBay and Amazon is this: Amazon is the beast. They've got the algorithms, they've got the data far better than eBay. So what that means is you can use the Amazon data for your eBay business, leverage the data that Amazon gives. I know this sounds a little confusing, but for the last 10 years, we've always started with Amazon. Now we're saying, get into eBay, then have it in your back pocket as you move forward with Amazon, because the two can work in tandem very, very nicely if you know how to do that through, it's called multi-channel. So I don't know, I guess I would just say, the biggest takeaway here, start with retail arbitrage. So now I'm going to give an example, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see, in arm's reach, I've got eyeglass case, and I remember about this at Walgreens. So let's say you source this from a Walgreens, an eyeglass case. You're actually going to be able to scan it as long as there's a UPC code on the product, and Amazon is going to look and see if it's in their catalog on an app that they created. Actually, it's going to do a little buzz, and all of a sudden this data is going to come up, and there's only one field that's empty, and that is what is the cost at that store. So you put in that cost, and then it's going to go in a microsecond. It's going to show you what your profit would be. It's going to show you the competition. Got to know that. Got to know the sales rank, etc. And so you can go scanning through a store and know very quickly, yep, this one, this one, this one. And it's not like they're all, going to be winners, but it's that speed of having that app. So I've done tons of that in the Twin City metro area. I have a gal in Wisconsin who owns a prep and ship center. She comes in on the weekend with a truck and a trailer with their friend, and they do about $30,000 to $40,000 worth of products on a given weekend in the Twin City metro. Then they take it back to a prep and ship center. They get it prepped and they ship it in the Amazon warehouse. So it can be very lucrative. I have a gal right now that's doing $600,000 a year in the grocery category through local retail arbitrage. One category.
So they're actually going and buying the product physically, paying taxes on it, sales tax, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And then reselling it, and the sales tax gets paid again.
Some are able to get a resale certificate, so you're not having to pay that. Now, there are 5 states in the union where they don't have retail tax. You and I both have it. I'm in Arkansas, and it's here too, and it's higher than it's high. So in any case, they kind of pick up every municipality. Everyone's getting their little piece of the pie. But so there are some states where they don't have that, but you can get a resale certificate. And that is accounted for when you do your metrics there, when you're, making that decision is what is the retail tax included in there as well. But yeah, that's in essence what you do is you buy that and then you can flip and sell it. Now there's online arbitrage as well, where you just do it via the web. We have a list of 500 stores that people can go to and do it online. And then that way you can automate it by sourcing that overseas to some VAs in the Philippines.
Okay. So give us an example of, you've got your eyeglass case in your hand, but what type of margins are good and what's worth messing around with and what's not?
Perfect question. So I have a gentleman, he's a Wall Street banker. He would love to be interviewed, but he can't because his profession, but he gets 20% profit. So he runs a really tight ship. He's got trying to blank on the term. His flip rate is every 30 days that his products cycle through. In other words, they've got a very high sales velocity. And so he gets about a 20% profit margin on his products. So here's the kind of the visual I give. You can have your dollar sit in the bank. Against inflation, you're losing value on your dollar. Okay. So when you have a turn rate of every 30 days, that dollar will go through, pull back 20% profit on average for this gentleman, flip again, month 2, flip again. So that's a dollar flipping through conceivably 12 times during the year, pulling in a 20% profit. Now I got to tell you, he runs a very good ship and he's a numbers guy. He's a banker, right? But that is what is possible. And that's what we tell people, aim for 20 to 25%. Additionally, we teach something called discount stacking. So, the coupon clipper types, and it's now all done through apps and everything. And money back, I can't think of the programs now, but where you build up credit money as you use your resource. Anyways, points, that type of thing. So that when you lower the cost of that product, thereby increasing your profits. So one of my trainers, she gets about a 50% on products for her profit because she's really, really good at skinning down the cost of acquisition.
Is there a scenario, and I'm just running this through my head, because of how we pay for things within our real estate company, oftentimes we're using credit cards that have airline miles or points like that. Do you ever encourage your students to incorporate those types of programs in as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything you can to increase your profitability as you decrease your cost, and any kind of kickback returns kind of a thing that you can get by using these kind of programs, 100%. I had a gal who went into Kohl's and it was like $1,300 for retail arbitrage products. And she paid like, I don't know if it was $97, and she had a screenshot of it showing on our membership. And so that when you really line up your ducks in a row and you know how to leverage all those mechanisms, all those different tools and resources, you can really bring down the cost significantly. It's more effort, but it's always about once you learn something and you get that streamlined, it just becomes second nature.
So I'm going to kind of go back to the beginning, right? Like we're tiptoeing into this. Now we've talked about a few different ways of doing it. But again, if I'm brand new and I'm just getting started, how do I know what products to do? How do I know, should I outsource something? Should I do it myself? All these different things.
Yeah, I always recommend people learn it first. You're not going to be a good manager. You're not going to have good governance over your systems. If you haven't done it yourself, it leads to a blind leading the blind kind of phenomenon. And it sounds awesome. Oh yeah, I'll just quick outsource it. And we've seen that to be just a disaster because at the end of the day, whenever you do a hire or outsource, you're the one who's responsible to make sure they're doing quality work. You are that person unless you develop then a leader over the team, which can definitely happen, but then you still have to make sure they're leading the team properly and checking the metrics and whatnot. So myself, I teach, and that's, I guess, part of my personality disposition as well. I want to know it. I want to understand it so that no one can hoodwink me, so to speak. Like, you could tell this lady doesn't know what she's talking about. No, I'm gonna have my eyes all over this. I know what I'm talking about, so that's just how I want to be really informed of when I hire and bring somebody on. In terms of the starting point, bar none, it's arbitrage, flip and sell. There's really no better, faster way, because here's the difference. With any other method, you're going to have to do paid advertising to get the eyeballs, no matter what. And at risk, whether it's wholesale or private label, and you don't really know that your listing with paid advertising is still going to monetize, that you're going to have that return on ad spend. So with retail arbitrage, you can do paid advertising. However, we teach go wide, not deep with retail arbitrage.
So when you're retail arbitraging, primarily you have, I think you said, a 30-day window for the money to flip. By the time you buy the product, list the product, it gets sold and shipped and paid for. Is that about right?
Really, someone who's got a really good, well-run business and account, that's the highest I've ever heard, is 30 days. Now that's all predicated on a number of factors, probably the main one being sales velocity. And that Amazon gives these data points. They don't want you making the dumb mistakes because they don't want your products filling up their warehouse and taking up space, but the number one is what's the rank. And so meaning like I was in groceries, I think, and in a household, I literally scanned the number one product at that given second. It was Kind bars for food. And then it was a Lunchable tray thing in August, September, back to school kind of stuff. And you go, am I seeing one? That means it is doing probably thousands per day. It's the number one product of that category. But then two, likely a lot of competition if others have found it, which very, very likely. So you have to know the competition, you have to know the rank. So it's really, it's knowing the correct data points and how to interpret them.
And is there any way that you can set up a software that can help with these systems? Anything that you can help with on that topic?
Yeah, definitely. So for Amazon, because it's attracted so many third-party sellers, that's the label we're given by Amazon, third-party sellers. There is a tremendous amount of apps that have been developed around the Amazon ecosystem. However, that being said, you need the right app at the right time for the right sourcing model. So that's a big conversation because there's many different sourcing models. So here I've been talking about the arbitrage model, which probably requires the least amount, albeit even for online arbitrage, there's like 3 different software that you can go deeper doing it online. They're like specialties. So one of our trainers has gotten very good at that. But I'll speak in the simplest level because I'm really big about positioning or setting people up for success with what is the simplest way to get going and not overcomplicating things. So obviously the most important relative to Amazon will be, it's called Seller Central. And so you do need a Seller Central account and it's $39.95 a month. We actually have a training just for getting your account set up because when I talked about eBay, you can set up that account in boom, 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 super fast. Amazon, not so much. And it's because they had a lot of fake sellers come into the platform and they had to raise the bar. And they even send you a postcard with a code just to make sure you are the person you say you are and that you live where you say you do, because they had to weed out a lot of fake sellers. Anyways, the point being, you're going to need Seller Central. That becomes how you manage your store, right? From there, you're going to get the Amazon Seller app, complimentary from Amazon. It's free. Well, relative to you do need your Seller Central account because you're going to have a store name under Amazon, subfolder past Amazon.com, whatever. And so Seller Central is $39.95 a month. And then you're going to need the Seller app, which is free, comes with that, I guess. Above and beyond that, we actually are tied in with another app company that does do an API interface with an online tool that we built. I'll just say the name, it's called AZ Insight. It's fantastic. And so we created an API integration with the two, ours with his. And that's about it. In time, you might get what's called a repricer. But see, to me, everything is only relevant to where you happen to be in your business at that point. And a repricer, you actually get to help manage the pricing of your product so that you don't lose money and that you max out the profits. Well, it's going to cost money. So you want to wait until you got enough products in your store to even merit needing a software like that. So I'm not a big proponent of people getting a list of apps and running out and buying apps. It's really about where you are at in your business and what is needful for you for where you're at. So, but I would say that's pretty minimal what you have right there.
Okay. Well, one of the things I love about your story and, the fact that you're able to do this with your family and, generations of wealth, that is one of our big sticking points, right? We want to be able to pass on knowledge to the next generation. What do you feel like is the longevity of this business? And, can it be generational? Obviously, you have to be able to pivot when things change in e-commerce, but what does that look like for you and your family specifically?
Well, to me, it becomes infinite in terms of it's one of those things that once you get into a space, the opportunities start to unfold before you. So I'll give you some examples and what our family has considered. There's been this rise, this phenomenon of the prep and ship centers. When we first started training, one of our trainers was the second person in the US to have a prep and ship center, which means for FBA sellers, rather than you doing that, you can have your product sent to a prep and ship center. They'll send it into Amazon's warehouse for you. So we're like, oh man, there's this, supplying the picks and shovels kind of deal. And so it truly becomes so expansive of what you can do. So we're a training company, picks and shovels, supporting people to come in, get their business set up properly, get set up to scale and grow. But what I inevitably see with my own sellers is, there's an opportunity for me to have a prep and ship center. There's just so many ancillary services to support this rather big industry that's not going away. And COVID gave a huge boost to it. And so I have an eye for where is this thing going? So the extreme would be my eldest son was my first business partner. He's in e-commerce stock trading. He's choosing that as his specialty because, you can invest to become a seller, or at the opposite end of the spectrum is, well, I'm going to just invest into the winners, the ones that have gone public and I can invest in and trade in. So he has a shipping center in Greece, for example, that he's got stocks in. So that's a really broad spectrum. And so for me, that's the beauty of when you come into an industry, the web around it is far bigger than the actual sellers who are in the middle of this thing, moving the products. I get interested in the bigger picture, what is surrounding and supporting this industry, and then getting a piece of that. So I'm training over here, and my son is in e-commerce stocks, in companies that are involved in the ecosystem around this.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And, just talking about how quickly Amazon changed over the last 15 years, right? I mean, the number of buildings they're building, the fact that they stopped using, well, I shouldn't say stopped using, but, put together their own delivery service instead of using third parties all the time. It blows my mind. And I go back to my own history, right? I've been in business 21 years, and certainly we all have goals, and we hit some we don't. And to think in that same 21-year period, this is all grown into a multi-trillion-dollar industry. I'm making that up, but I'm assuming I'm pretty close. And I look at, well, what have I done in the last 20 years, right? It's kind of a little daunting as to just think about e-commerce starting as an infant and being what it is today is amazing. And what it could be 20 more years from now. Crazy to even dream about. So as we start to kind of wind this down a little bit, I have a question that I ask almost all of my guests. What should I have asked you that I haven't?
I probably the biggest pitfalls I always think of is most people want to know, buyer beware, tell me, be honest with me, so I'm happy to, one just popped right into my head that I'm happy to share.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I would say, again, as people this is maybe a newer topic, it sounds like it is tremendously a buyer beware. So I will say, for one, what I have noted in the market space is people are terrified. It's the biggest fear they have. Is this a scam? And that being when they start they want it, but who's going to be ripping me off, And I get it. I've been online for 20 years, so I'm very comfortable here. And I've had some very, very good experiences. And I've had some where it's like, seriously, dude, what are you doing? And I liken it to, there's a lot of people who want a piece of this pie and they're trying to throw things together out here. They're very inferior operators. Is typically the business challenge that they have. And so what has happened in the industry, it's brought in a plethora of would-be people, especially when you learn about funnel building. I won't rattle off some names, but and they're pretty much throwing stuff all over the place. And it gets to a point as a consumer who wants to learn, you go, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Okay. So there's that, do your due diligence. But here's the one that's the most dangerous in my opinion, because I've seen so many failures. It's called the done for you, literally where they're gonna run your whole store for you. And it usually starts at 30 grand, can go up to 100 grand. I've talked to so many people who have lost money plopping down 30 grand and their money's gone. So I hate to say that about the industry I've been a part of for 20 years, but that's the worst one. And I have good friends I've known. It's just like, you should have talked to me first. I mean, come on, that's like having a business partner. You don't even know this person. And they're going to control your Amazon account. Seriously? You think? No, come on now. Let's be grown-ups. And, but when people get starry-eyed, but you cannot imagine how many stories I've heard of people who plop down, and then to buy from China too. And they bought a whole container full of silicone ice cubes and they've sold 2 or 3. Because guess what? The market changes in 9 months by the time you work this whole deal and you got it into Amazon. So, get your education. I have videos on my website that speak to kind of these bigger global view issues, because unsuspecting people can get lured in and lose their shirts pretty quickly.
No, absolutely. And in fact, we'll have a link to your coaching program at thegenerationsofwealth.com/Ann Sieg. And, this is something that sounds very simple to do. However, anytime something sounds simple, we all know that there's little nuances, there's little tricks to everything.
Yeah.
And you either make all the mistakes yourself or step on the shoulders of a giant that's been there, done that. And that's what we're very, very much proponents of. We all want to help each other grow. And that's a part of that. So, Ann, I really, really appreciate you being here. Is there any other contact information, people that, the way they can follow you, or are you on social media, or you pretty much just keep to yourself?
Well, my name, annsieg.com, redirects right to my e-commerce business school. So if you search me, it's probably going to take all roads leading to that e-commerce business school. But I mean, I have my personal profile, but I think it got maxed out quite a while ago. But that's the main way. And if people are curious, we got a ton of free content. I'm a big believer in that. So, and I just want to encourage those who are listening. I love entrepreneurship. It's in my blood. I was selling Christmas bells when I was about 7 years old in the neighborhood. I love commerce. I love business. So I just, I think that's awesome that you help nurture people through that process in your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really just having great guests like you. That's my goal for all of my audience, to be able to have multiple different streams of possible income. And I actually do want to ask that question. What is a realistic income goal for people as they get into e-commerce? And then what's possible? There's realistic and there's possible.
I would say realistically, hand to plow, really getting focused on this. You can do a $4,000 to $5,000 a month business with Amazon. You're going to have to really know your numbers, though. You can't be sloppy and schlocky. You got to be really focused on your numbers. Some people don't want to deal with that. Well, you have to. It's just a grown-up way of running a business. In terms of what is possible, so my banker guy that I just spoke with Saturday, actually, he's got a team of about 20. He's Indian. and India. First he had them in the Philippines, but anyways, he says, I'm going slow, Ann. So he's at about 600,000 right now. He's in his third year, and he's just more, I'm going to do it right before I really go big. And that's mostly with an eye towards his numbers. So I imagine he should be able to do 1 million next year. Because he's really getting this, or conceivably by the end of this year, because of the systems, the people systems he's getting in place. That's where you can really get your scale, as long as they are good producers.
Fantastic. Well, again, I appreciate your time, having you on the show and giving everybody a perspective, especially the real estate investors out there that, let's be honest, we all have spouses, kids, other people that we may want to help them be entrepreneurial. So I'm going to go and have my kids listen to this show and say, hey, what are you doing with your life? So again, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And for everybody else, please share this and all of our episodes. Go and give us ratings and reviews. Jump on Facebook, go to the Generations of Wealth Facebook page, get involved in that group, and we'll see you on the next show. Go out there and live your vision, love your life. See y'all.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.